What's up, Cougs? I am your host of Unorthodox Sports, Squabble, and today we come at you with some mixed emotions about the show that we have to bring you guys. Unfortunately, we are coming to you after a Seahawks embarrassing, eliminating loss to the Los Angeles Rams this past Saturday, and unfortunately that means we are eliminated from contention in the 2021 NFL playoffs. But we are not alone in our pain, as you will soon see that another individual on this show who is not a Seahawks fan also had his team eliminated in embarrassing fashion at home this previous weekend. We'll get into that in just a minute. We have some men's and women's Wazoo basketball updates to get into in a little bit. We're staying on the NFL for a while, though, making our predictions for this weekend's slate of games, including some surprising matchups on both sides of the bracket, as well as our college football championship reaction. Alabama Crimson Tide dominated, a real shocker in that one, and what would it take to trade Russell Wilson in Seattle? We are going to discuss all of these things coming up, but first, leave a subscribe down below if you are tuned in via YouTube, and if you are tuned in on the radio, go ahead to our KUGR Radio YouTube channel at KUGR Radio and hit subscribe. Okay, so with me today on the show, I'm not by myself. As per usual, the sports director of KUGR on my left shoulder, Mr. Asher Lined. Asher, great to have you on.
Great to be here. Not as great, like you mentioned, about a few other things, but we'll get into that eventually. But as always, good to see your two smiling faces.
Appreciate it. And on my right shoulder, last but certainly not least, Mr. Aaron Munson, my fellow Seahawk fan.
What is up, Squabble? It's good to be here once again. I'm still a little disappointed about a lot of things that we're going to get into today. But I'll let you get us started.
Yeah. So let's start with the elephant in the room. The Seattle Seahawks were eliminated this weekend, 30-20. I did a watch party on my channel at DJSQUABO on YouTube. I saw you, Aaron, in the chat. Aaron, great. Appreciate you coming on, showing some support.
Man, that's great.
The Seahawks were really dominated in this ball game. We were beat out in total yards. We were only 2 for 14 on third down, which is absolutely horrible and the opposite of one of my keys. Once again, we lost time of possession. Once again, we lost a turnover battle. And we had 8 punts from the ball game. Not a winning recipe. Only 11 first downs. So only 3 more first downs than punts. That says a lot about how that game went for us offensively. Head coach right before the stream, or not head coach, excuse me, offensive coordinator Brian Schottenheimer has been released, essentially fired from his position, and is no longer with Seattle. Gentlemen, do you have any... I want to get your instant reaction, first of all, to the Brian Schottenheimer release as offensive coordinator. Do you think that fixes anything for Seattle? And do you have any idea who Seattle could go after? Aaron, let's go to you first.
Well, I don't know who we could go after as of right now, but I think it was a good decision. I think there was a lot of mistakes that were made throughout that game. What did you say? It was 2 for 13 on third down conversions?
2 for 14.
Oh, Lord almighty. Awful.
Even worse.
Dude, I was sitting there on my couch. I think I stopped watching at like the end of the third quarter or something like that, or like halfway through the fourth. Just 'cause I couldn't do it anymore, dude. I kept on checking in your channel to see what the score was and like the reaction and stuff, but it was just, God, just embarrassing. It was just not good. And Russell played okay. He played less than average, right? And DK Metcalf had a great game though with 2 touchdowns and 96 yards. Like played a little bit better against Los Angeles than he did last time, but at the same time, he had 5 receptions, but it was 96 yards, and so he still kind of got shut down with only 5 receptions, But I'm just disappointed.
Our offense got shut down as a whole. I completely agree.
It did. They really did. Aaron Donald is just so terrifying. Like you saw in a pregame conference, he was talking to. He's like, he was coming. Like he was looking at him. He's like, "We're ready for Seattle. We don't need to worry about that." And he just looked like an angry man who wanted to win this game more than anything else in his life, and I don't blame him.
No, Aaron Donald was a monster.
God, dude, even like with a cracked rib, he came back into the game or something. Did he end up breaking a rib? I didn't see what happened to him completely.
I don't know if it was broken, but he
definitely looked like he was like holding his chest, right?
He was. He's good for this week, though.
Oh, good for them because they need him. But we just got worked. Their defense is too good for our offense. That's all. Yeah.
Well, our offensive coordinator gets fired. I agree with the firing. After the game, people were asking. I was collaborating with Norm and stuff, and they were asking, "What do we think is the move here? Do we fire the head coach? Do we fire the offensive coordinator? Do we fire the defensive coordinator? Like, what is the plan?" And I said, if we're gonna fire a coordinator, I said I'd go Brian Schottenheimer. But the specific and part of the reason is because we struggle at running screens in general, let alone the screen that turned into the pick six that ended up being practically the difference in the game. That pick six was obviously drastic and huge, and it came after DK was a little bit pouty on the first couple of drives, so it looked like we were trying to please him. And Brian, I agree with, if we're going to hire one of the big three, Brian was the one to go. But I don't think that's the only firing that needs to happen. There's one other position group who you would think this would be a strength of our team. You would think that with this being our best personnel we've had here in many years, and we have a very experienced guy running this group, but he has struggled as of this year. And I can't even fathom some of the mistakes that this offensive line is making. I'm seeing fundamental errors. I'm seeing missteps immediately after the snap. And your first step as a lineman is 100% important, and it can be the difference between giving up a sack and making a key block that leads to DK Metcalf catching a deep ball that would have been an early touchdown in the ball game and his second early on. But instead, it turns into.
So you're saying we fire the offensive line coordinator?
Offensive line coach Mike Solari, I say he needs to go because our technique was wrong and we struggle at communicating across our offensive line. How many times have we gotten sacked because of a basic crossing pattern where our offensive line isn't communicating and one of our players is out of position in terms of their depth towards the quarterback and creating a pocket? There were too many fundamental errors. Our splits were off at times, and our first steps were off, and it led to a lot of bad plays for Seattle. So I say offensive line coach Mike Solari needs to go, and I frankly agree with Brian Schottenheimer. Our offense stalled down the stretch, and in a modern day in the NFL, we need to be more proficient and more efficient with our screen game, and we can never get our screen game going in events. We struggle with it. We had it a little bit early on in the season. Atlanta, we were able to get it going with Chris Carson a little bit, but as of late, it has been absolutely abysmal. So I can agree with the firing.
Are you sure that the offensive line struggling is the coach's fault?
Yes, because we do have the personnel.
And it's not just the linemen who are sucking.
No. And so here's the thing about it. It's not that we do not have the personnel. I believe in our personnel. I believe this is one of the most talented offensive lines that we had in here. But it is technique error. It is fundamentally, like Dwayne Brown has given up a whole bunch of sacks because he's in the wrong spot and he's doing the wrong thing. He's not dropping back deep enough with his first step, and he's getting beat off the edge, and they're doing a crossing pattern, and he's just not even blocking anyone while Russell Wilson's getting sacked. So it's communication. It's recognizing the blitz. I think all offseason we need to run our pass protection schemes, and it has led to a lot of Russell Wilson's flaws. I'm not saying Russell Wilson has been perfect, because Russell Wilson has a lot of question marks, and you guys asked me if I wanted to talk about trading Russell Wilson a week ago, and I said, maybe. After this week, it's far more realistic, and it's far more of a hot topic based on that last performance. Russell Wilson has made a lot of mistakes over these past couple of weeks. Let's be very clear about that. But he also is not benefited by not knowing on any given play if his offensive linemen are going to be able to pick up a routine blitz. There are routine blitzes, 4-man rushes that have been getting through to the quarterback because they're doing simple crossing patterns between the tackle and the nose, nose tackle, edge, nose, either one. All of the above have been getting through to the quarterback because of basic miscommunications and basic fundamentals that are just lacking across our offensive line. So I think our personnel are talented. When we talk about who we're going after in the draft over the next couple of weeks and over the next couple of months, you're going to hear me say I want us to go after a new left guard, because I thought Yapati has taken a step back. But regardless of that, I think we do have the personnel that we should have had a much better performance. And so I do put it on the O-line coach.
I do understand that does make a lot more sense the more I think about it. And like I have noticed this year, like even based off last year's performance of the Seahawks, like offensive line, we have improved greatly. Like on there, like it's very clear that we've gotten better.
Yep.
And it just like over the course of the season, it just kind of like decreased. Like I understand where you're coming at now, but I just don't know where we'd get an offensive line coach right now.
Well,
do we pull somebody up from D1 colleges? Do we try to find somebody in the NFL? Like, what's the plan for that? Like, how would we figure that out?
I would love to go D1. I don't know exactly who we would go after. I don't have a list of offensive line coaches offhand. What I do know is that there are basic fundamental errors that are being messed up, that are being missed, that we're just having, like, on any given play, we're giving up things like, and it had crucial and obvious impacts immediately throughout the season. The game at the Cardinals, Russell Wilson throws the game-ending interception. The game after, or the play after, he gets blown up because DJ Dallas misses a block, and that's not just the offensive line, but that's also pass protection as a whole. And so our pass protection needs to get fixed, and we've seen our offensive line getting beat game after game. Ethan Postic's out of position. Last game, Damian Lewis, our right guard, who we got in the first 3 rounds of the draft out of LSU. He's a run blocking specialist. He played with Seattle on Madden before he even got drafted because he loved our style of play. On 4th and 1, he gets blown up by Sebastian Joseph Day because of the fact that his technique is wrong. His first step is off, and his hat is too high off the ball, and that is coaching. That is technique.
Yeah, you're right.
That is all stuff that can be corrected, and we have the personnel to do it. So I just want to see a new face in our offensive line room.
All right. No, I respect that. That makes a lot of sense. I do.
Asher, what are your opinions on the firing of Brian Schottenheimer and your thoughts about the offensive line?
I would agree with most of what you're saying, because I think it was inevitable at some point that Schottenheimer gets released, because I feel like the majority of what I've seen on Seahawks Twitter, because going to Washington State, like I mentioned at some point earlier, I think in another show, is that every single week we get Seahawks Twitter for better or for worse, and a lot of the complaints were either towards Schottenheimer or towards like the play calling and the lack of chemistry it seemed like there was between Coach Carroll and Schottenheimer. And I think the first person that would go to my mind, if you want an immediate fix, would be Eric Bieniemy, the offensive coordinator from the Chiefs. And that's I'm not saying they will get him, because he's got a lot of suitors right now. The Jets are trying to get him. The Chargers definitely have a very tempting job with Justin Herbert getting offensive or Rookie of the Year. That's definitely a very tempting job. Him and Keenan Allen is a great combo in the NFL. That's certainly tempting. The Jaguars might be a little tempting. I don't know. There's a lot of rumors going around that Urban Meyer is trying to get someone or get some people from Ohio State to go down with him to Jacksonville, but that's not for certain yet. And assuming they draft Trevor Lawrence, that would be a very tempting offer as well. Yeah. So it's going to be hard for anyone, for any specific team to land Bieniemy but I think that's who I would go after first, because we've seen what he's done with Kansas City. They're coming off a Super Bowl win, and he's probably coaching the best quarterback in the league right now in Patrick Mahomes. So I would think that's who you look at first if you want to fix someone, or if you want to get an immediate fix for offensive coordinator. As far as the game, I was kind of surprised as well. I kind of figured, we talked about it last week too, the biggest key was going to be Ramsey versus Metcalf. And I think Ramsey ultimately won that matchup. He did end up with 96 yards and 2 touchdowns, which is a great stat, but he only had 5 catches, mostly because Ramsey was shadowing him most of the game and was putting him on an island whenever he was on him. And he wasn't on him the entire game, because the Rams game plan wasn't about that.
They were in zone.
It worked out to their benefit, exactly. So they were in zone most of the time, but whenever Ramsey was one-on-one with Metcalf, like you can look at the numbers, you can see Ramsey was a lockdown against Metcalf, and he definitely earned it. So Metcalf's not an easy guy to guard, but Ramsey definitely stepped up. But Cam Akers also another guy that was a difference maker. 131 yards on the ground and a rushing touchdown to go along with it. Seattle's rush defense was just not there, and I feel like going back to the offensive line, it's almost a step in the right direction, because I think going into this year, a lot of Seahawks fans were complaining about the offensive line and Dwayne Brown and Yapati, and how all these guys were just missing blocks and just letting the team down. And then once the season got going, like a couple games, they're like, okay, we've won a couple games. The offensive line is getting going, and now it's the defense that's an issue. And then you guys fix that by getting Jamal Adams and Carlos Dunlap. And you didn't get the end you wanted to, but I think you guys are definitely making steps in the right direction. And letting go of Schottenheimer is definitely the first step to getting to where you guys want to go, because that's definitely a talented roster when you look at it on paper, with Russell Wilson, Metcalf, who finished 7th in yards on the year. Great season for him, but definitely a step in the right direction. But yeah, I agree, Schottenheimer had to go.
Yeah, I have a question for you, Asher. would look so like you say we should go after the Kansas City offensive coordinator. How would you convince him to leave? Like, even with a bigger paycheck, do you think he'd want to leave Kansas City and Patrick Mahomes? And potentially,
that's the thing. Yeah, that's the thing.
He could potentially get 3-4 more rings out of Patrick Mahomes if they stay this good for as long as he's there. Or like, I just don't.
Hold on, real quick. Asher, I do want to get your thoughts about this, but I think it's important for us to mention, like, I think the real question here isn't if he would leave Kansas City, because he's probably going to leave Kansas City. The question is, where is he getting the head coaching job? Because why would he want to go lateral and go to another team where he could be an offensive coordinator? This is a picture-perfect scenario for an offensive coordinator that's coming up through the ranks, where now you have stability, a defense that you can trust based on how they finish the season, and a head coach and a GM that have been here for 10 years and just extended their contract. So, Asher, I do want to get your thoughts about it, but I don't think Bieniemy would go lateral, and I think that's the bigger question.
Yeah, that's definitely the bigger question for sure. I definitely agree with that, because this year Atlanta is another team that I forgot to mention earlier, because they just released Dan Quinn, and he's now going to Dallas. So that's another fairly tempting head coaching position, because they have a lottery pick this year. Their draft number 4, I believe, this year. We're going to talk about that in our mock draft later. So that's another team. That's at least 3 or 4 teams that are going to try to get a new head coach in Bieniemy. So I don't think he'll necessarily go laterally, but I think a big step in that would be making a couple more big trades. Like hypothetically, like I was talking to you guys about this earlier. It's a shame Bill O'Brien's not there, because he'd be able to do it. But hypothetically, if you were able to give away a first rounder, X player, and a $50 Amazon gift card to the Texans, because that's what Bill O'Brien would trade for, you know what I mean, for Deshaun Watson, that would definitely be a little more tempting than Justin Herbert for me, because just Deshaun Watson led the league in total yards this year, 4,800 plus. It just absolutely torched everyone. And Houston has a couple great pieces. Deshaun Watson led the league in yards. Zach Cunningham led the league in tackles. It's just the front office was just a disaster for them this year, and I think that's a big reason why they weren't so successful. So if hypothetically, if they were able to get Deshaun Watson and get the league's leading passer, I think that would be tempting for me, even if it is moving laterally, like you said, Squabo. I don't know. Personally, I think I would take Deshaun Watson over a Justin Herbert or a Trevor Lawrence, just because I've already seen what Deshaun Watson's done. He's won the national championship in college. He's already led the league in yards like he just did this year. So it's definitely tempting, but that's definitely a big ask for Seattle to go out and get Deshaun Watson.
Yeah. I really think Deshaun Watson does find his way out of Houston at some point. I think J.J. Watt goes with him.
Oh yeah,
J.J. Watt in Pittsburgh. I want to see the Watt brothers together. Not because I'm a Steelers fan, but because it would be poetic justice. It's got to happen.
That'd be something that ever happened too, right? 3 brothers playing on the same NFL team together. That's actually pretty crazy.
That'd be like the not the Antetokounmpos, because they don't all play on the same team, but it's similar to the NBA, because you have the Holidays on the Pacers, and then Drew now with the Bucks. So it'd be really neat.
It sounds like a movie plot.
It would make our defense. It would make Steelers defense so much better too. TJ and JJ, the chemistry they have together, like just naturally being brothers, and just the loaded, and the Griffins too. Yep, them. Just the loaded amount of talent that the Watts have together, and them growing up together, playing off the edge with each other. That would just make it so much better.
And then there's the third brother, who honestly I can't remember his first name. He's just
Derek.
a fullback. Derek Watt. He's just kind of.
I don't know why they didn't use him at all. He did not get a single regular season snap. And then on the Steelers' very first short yard situation, they bring him in as a fullback, and then he ended up converting, but he just wasn't part of their game plan at all this season.
I know, kind of upsetting, but
well. Real quick, I did want to touch on just a couple things that you brought up, Asher, because you brought up some good points, and you brought up a couple things, like Deshaun Watson leading the league in yards. That's one of those misleading stats. Like, that's because they were trailing all year, and that's Dak Prescott led that last year. Like, we see like that's not necessarily a great stat to have. Drew Brees had it for all those years, and they missed the playoffs a lot of those years. So. It's just not one of those stats that I really love. But Dak Prescott for Russell Wilson, that is an interesting concept that I think it's just something that we could consider when we talk about. And Houston's struggling with the first round pick, so they couldn't sweeten it. But when we talk about that Russell Wilson trade topic, we might bring that up. But about the whole Cam Akers thing that you said with Seattle, Asher, Cam Akers set the rookie record for most rushing yards in a playoff game against Seattle, and rushing defense was supposed to be our strength, so that was really, really ugly. With the whole Ramsey DK thing, for the record, I don't know if I did it on this show, but I know I did it on my other 2 shows. The stat line that I gave out, I tripled down on the DK thing. 100 yards, 2 touchdowns was a stat line. I was 4 yards off, unfortunately, but it was a much less meaningful 100 yards and a much less meaningful 2 touchdowns than I originally anticipated. I thought this game would go a lot differently, and they would be catapults rather than floaters, keeping us in the water as long as we could before brutally being eaten by sharks. And one thing that I didn't like about DK in this game, and I do want to stay on this for a minute or so longer, talking about the dynamic that DK had early on in the ball game. The fact that he starts getting upset. And one of my biggest things that I said about DK heading in was that he does have this huge ego, and he does have, at times, I don't think it's supposed to be this way, but keep DK happy, happy wife, happy life. Keep DK happy, and the offense is going to be humming. Keep DK happy, and he becomes a leader rather than a nuisance. This offseason, I want to work on his leadership, and I want to work on his attitude, and I want to work on him not losing his temper and missing blocks and getting bad penalties when he gets upset and getting in fights and stuff and complaining on the sideline and throwing his helmet. Literally, I'm going down a list of everything that he does when he gets upset. I don't want it to be that way, but that is how it is, and then we try and make up for it, and this is part of the reason that Schottenheimer's gone today, because he tried to go to DK immediately after he got upset. Russell Wilson shows that it's a screen before the snap and turns into a pick six. So how do you feel about the whole DK dynamic in terms of his attitude and how he needs to fix, what he needs to work on this offseason? Aaron, let's go to you.
I think you kind of said it all. What I was thinking about, because this is going to be this was his second year in the Seahawks, right? He's kind of getting into his shoes, realizing how much of a tool he can be. Like this entire year, he popped off. He was Russell's one of the 2 Russell's go-to, and I think that he needs to start, because he's the young, energetic guy in the locker room, right? And he can, he's got the ability to just get people energized and pump them up. And like you said, he needs to start acting like a leader. He needs to start, getting in guys' faces when they're messing up. And he needs to start, positive feedback. He's being congratulated them. How Russell and Pete are always on the field right after they do the PATs, after they score a touchdown. I think DK needs to be one of those guys too. I think he needs to be getting out there and showing these guys how much he loves and cares about them, and how much he can, because he's definitely a huge, he's probably one of the most spirited guys on our team, if not the most. And so I think getting him, showing his guys that he, 1, cares about them, and 2, wants them to succeed, and 3, wants himself to succeed as well, and becoming that kind of leader, I think would be huge for the Seahawks, and maybe even a difference maker in some games.
Well said. Asher, let's go to you.
Yeah, that was very well said. And I would attest to a lot of that too. I think it's part of it is definitely the mental game, when you're talking trash, or someone like Jalen Ramsey trying to get in your head, that definitely plays a big part of it. And having a guy like Russell Wilson too, I think will help him going forward. I don't know what their plan is with Russell Wilson, but even if they go out and trade for someone hypothetically, like Deshaun Watson and Russell Wilson are both really good leaders, and so getting that chemistry on when you're with your quarterback. So I think the big thing for him is, if assuming they do go with Russell Wilson, get some work in with him in the offseason. So run 100 routes a day if you have to with Russ. I don't know if they have the time to do that, but getting those routes and getting that chemistry down will definitely go a long ways, because he was top 7 in total yards this season. He had a phenomenal season with Russ, but if you look at the receptions and targets, his numbers dipped down a little compared to everyone else. You have Stephon Diggs, Kelsey, Hopkins, all with at least 105 plus receptions, and then you have DK Metcalf with just 83. Granted, he had 129 targets, but he still had a lot less receptions and total yards than these guys. And Russell Wilson is up there with these quarterbacks, the Patrick Mahomes, the Josh Allens of the world. So I think the chemistry thing is a big thing, because you look at Kelsey and Patrick Mahomes, chemistry, totally not an issue whatsoever. Stephon Diggs and Josh Allen, chemistry, not an issue whatsoever. You don't ever see Kelsey complaining or Stephon Diggs complaining about catches. I hope Stephon Diggs wouldn't complain about not getting catches, because he led the league in yards and receptions and targets. So I hope he's not complaining. But you get my point. You don't see any of these other guys complaining as much. And I think that's something he has to grow into, granted, because this is his second year, like you said, Aaron. And so the Kelsey, Stephon Diggs, they've been in this league for years now.
Yeah.
I would consider them veterans.
Oh yeah.
If you put them next to DK, and so I think that's one big thing he has to learn going forward is to just not let it get in
Mature,
your head, per se.
almost,
Yeah,
kinda.
maturity. Yeah. That's the word I'm looking for. There is some maturity there that has to be had.
We're all just younger than DK telling him he needs to mature.
Try tell his NFL wide receiver. But
Hey, you told me what thing he has to work on. That's what he's got to work on.
Right.
No, we agree. It's just adorable.
Yeah, I do agree.
Like, we all just can't even grow a full beard.
Poetic justice there for you.
True. I have another thing to add on to that, Asher. You know how he had 83 receptions this year, compared to all those other guys. I think the reason for that is because we also have Tyler Lockett, and I think that's also probably why he wasn't up there in receptions as much, because Tyler Lockett had a couple games where he had that 3 touchdown game, he had the hat trick, he had a couple other games where he had over 100 yards receiving, and I think that's what's on the other teams you talk about Stephon Diggs and those guys, that's their go-to. Seattle's lucky enough to have 2 really good wide receivers, and that's kind of why I think the numbers are down there.
Yeah, that's a really good point, because if you look on the list, Tyler Lockett finished 17th in total yards, 17th on the list, and then ironically, if you add 17 to the number of catches DK had, that's how many catches you have for Tyler Lockett. Tyler Lockett was able to finish with exactly 100, and so that would definitely be, if I'm DK and I see that, I'd be like, okay, man, if I'm top 7 in the league, why am I not getting more looks than Tyler Lockett? And that's definitely a valid response, or a valid thing to ask yourself, especially if you're an elite receiver like DK is. But you can't let that get to your head at all. You just got to talk to Russ. You just got to let that slide off you, because it's not the game plan. Being about yourself, that's just not it. And I don't think you should worry about it at all.
That was beautiful. Both of you. They're just spaz right there. Beautifully.
I'll get snaps. I'll give you some snaps.
Let's shift now and let's talk about another depressing topic. The Pittsburgh Steelers. Just not for us though.
I'm so excited for this
one. The Pittsburgh Steelers in similar embarrassing fashion, but even more embarrassing, I think, than our loss to the Rams.
Let me just put it out. That was the most embarrassing loss of the year. That was more embarrassing than the Rams losing to the Jets. I'll put it out there. That was more embarrassing because that was at least a close game. So let me tell you this. Picture this. I'm eating dinner with my mom. We had chicken sandwiches last night. I'm watching the game on my phone. Marcus Pouncey pulls a Peyton Manning Super Bowl 48 vibes written all over it. Just flies over Ben Roethlisberger. Legit drop my sandwich, scream at the top of my lungs, and watch the Browns get a touchdown in the first 14 seconds of the game. And I thought, wow, we're going to pull a Broncos, and we're just going to get absolutely throttled this game. And what happened? They give up 28 points in the first quarter, and they just couldn't come back from it, and it was just absolutely embarrassing. And I saw it coming, too, because
Hold on. Before you get into it, it is much worse than the Broncos thing. You pull the Broncos and a Panthers because first you snap it over the head, and then you don't dive on the football. What are you? That sends the whole momentum for the whole. That says everything. You gave up 7 right there.
Yep. You're totally right. And
what do you think about your team's effort right there?
About what?
Your team's effort going after the football.
Oh, the effort? I mean, personally, I thought they shouldn't have given up a touchdown because you had Roethlisberger and Connor right there, and I think there was a little confusion because it was at the half-yard line. I think Roethlisberger kind of stepped back a little because he thought Connor was going to dive on it, and it's kind of like in basketball how you think, oh, I'm going to pass to you, or it was just miscommunication, like Aaron was talking about with the Seahawks O-line, just miscommunication, and that's how detrimental it was. Having communication is so key because in situations like that, that's the difference between having it on your own one and then having Cody Parkey kick it off to you again 10 seconds later, and it was just absolutely awful. I mean, the effort after that, I think, picked up a little because we talked about it before the show. Ben threw for 500 yards. You don't see that a whole lot. So respect to Ben. Respect to Ben. But also you do not get 500 yards passing a lot. And he's probably the only quarterback. You'd have to fact check me to throw 500 and lose a playoff game. But
Tom Brady in the Super Bowl.
Tom Brady
threw more yards
Super Bowl
against Philly.
He threw for 500 that game? Okay.
He set the playoff record for the most yards in it. But I think this is second, though. So you still have a very good point. This is a lot of yards, but it's also a lot of deficit in the first quarter. Please continue your rant. I just wanted to really make you think about that first play and how bad it really was.
It's been in my head rent free. I'll admit, ever since I dropped my jaw. I screamed so loud after that first play, and I thought, man, we're just not going to come back from it. But credit to Cleveland, they came in with a great game plan, and they just totally executed it front to back. Baker Mayfield felt dangerous, had a great game. Kareem Hunt absolutely torched our rush defense, which was supposed to be top tier in the league. And I think the injuries finally caught up to us. Not having Bud Dupree, not having Devin Bush, not having Joe Hayden there because of COVID protocols and stuff like that really, really took a toll. And Cleveland did that without Kevin Stefanski too. I don't know why they have the rule where he couldn't talk with anyone on the team. I don't know why he can just do it virtually. I'm not a rule maker in the NFL, but I thought that was silly personally. But credit to them for going out and totally calling an audible right before the game. Because I can't even imagine what that did to their organization when they were told, okay, yeah, head coach, go home, don't talk with anyone. They're like, okay, like what do we do from here? And they totally executed perfection, I think. Baker Mayfield, Jarvis Landry had a really great game too. I don't know if they're going to beat Kansas City. I actually have them losing to Kansas City when we talk about our betting odds, but I can't root for the Browns because Steelers fans are legally not allowed to do that. That's just not a thing. But I do give them some credit and some respect for coming out and beating us because we beat them handily when we had Ben Roethlisberger and all our starters, our first regular season matchup. Just total domination like you expect with Big Ben to play against Cleveland because he had only lost twice against Cleveland coming into this one. He's just never lost to Cleveland. That just doesn't happen. And then the game plan just went to perfection for Cleveland. And to the Steelers' credit, we certainly didn't help ourselves at all. You know, Marcus Pouncey not having a great first snap, Ben Roethlisberger throwing 4 interceptions, us as a team having the worst defense or the worst rushing, in the league. We only had about 87, 88 yards a game, which was good for dead last in the league, and that's not going to win you any playoff games against anyone. So I think that's the end of my rant. I think I've gotten everything out. I need to take a step for that one and catch my breath. It was a lot, and I saw it coming because after 11-0, after we lost to Washington and we lost to the Bengals, I thought, okay, maybe we did have a bit of a soft schedule those first 11 games, and it finally caught up to us. But I don't know, man. I just wanted Ben to go out and get one more. I thought he deserved it. He went out there and had a great game, and just I don't know, just didn't clutch up.
For our radio audience, the people that can't see our faces, the look on Aaron's face during that rant, priceless.
I do not rant a lot, so take it in, Aaron. I do not get a lot of rants off, but there
he's
you go.
So even keel. Now we're hearing about the dark side of Asher. Drops the chicken sandwich, yells at the television. Children are screaming. The dog is hiding. Everything going wrong in the Pittsburgh household.
Glass just shatters in Asher's house.
Yeah, I'm surprised I didn't break a window, honestly.
Yeah, dude.
With physicality or with the screaming. Aaron, let's go.
Screaming. Well, both.
Yeah. Well, you see, I'm looking at the numbers here, and I just want to say a huge part of this awesome win for the Cleveland Browns was just 28 points in the first quarter alone.
28 in the first quarter. That is not something.
28 points, Azure.
Credit to them.
That's Wazoo USC.
And you see, my dad and I were talking about this during the game, and we were worried that we didn't want Wazoo UCLA rematch to happen, because remember that game last year where they 120.
I was at that game and watched them.
I was too.
Totally throw it away. I
was in the front row. I was in the front row of the student section screaming at the refs, but I was worried that was going to happen, but thank God it didn't. But credit to the Steelers for having an awesome season for the most part. Juju Smith-Schuster had an amazing game too. 13 receptions for 157 yards. Those are some absolutely incredible numbers. And
he finally backed up his talk. Yeah,
he finally did. And I like Juju a lot. And so that was good to see him do that. Along with Deontay Johnson with 107, 2 receivers with over 100 yards is insane. That's just
they have some good pieces moving forward. They just need to put it all together, and I don't know what the big piece is.
Understand? Well,
I think it's the injuries is the big part because you have Deontay Johnson, you got Juju who had a couple 100-yard games to close out the season, Chase Claypool who had a really good rookie season, They're definitely talking. They're definitely talking a lot. Don't get me wrong. With that whole Claypool video, Browns are going to get. I don't know. I don't know what to make of that.
That's not even what I'm thinking. I'm more so concerned about Big Ben throwing 4 picks.
I should be more concerned about that too.
Like, he needs eye surgery.
I get the injuries and everything, but I mean, he did throw 4 touchdowns, but he also threw 4 picks along with that. You can't be doing that in the wild card game, dude.
You can't be doing that in any game, and it's such
You're right, literally ever.
It's super weird too, because when you look at the numbers, like the total stat line, it was 47 to 68, I think. Like he set the NFL record for most completions in a game, which is awesome. But he had 68 attempts. You do not see that at all at any level of football. You never see that.
Hold on. Do y'all see this? Total plays. Cleveland 65. You think that's a lot? Pittsburgh 84 total plays.
They definitely had opportunity, and 4 of those plays ended up in interceptions, and that's 4 too many.
Almighty, Asher, I'm so sorry.
Oh, hey, I saw it coming, man. I think we can go back.
I'm not gonna lie, you did kind of call it a little bit. You did. You were expecting this, but it still makes it that much sweeter for me, to be completely honest with you. But I'm sorry, man.
Hey, that's okay, man. We're all in the first round out club. We can go through this together.
I just expected you guys to do better.
Hey, man, I expected a little better than that too.
I expected a little better. Like, I wasn't so shocked losing to the Rams, but the Cleveland Browns, who haven't been in the playoffs since when exactly?
94.
Been 18 years.
No, 02.
02. Yeah,
that was the last time they won a game. Was 94, I think, a playoff game.
Okay.
Oh Lord Almighty, Asher, that's just.
It's Spain without the S. Let me tell you.
You're in Spain with a silent S, my friend. Oh Lord.
Hey, we'll head back to the States this offseason, though. I think because a lot of people are saying they need to move off of Big Ben, and I hate to agree with them, but I think they're right. Like the Steelers would be another team that wouldn't be totally wrong to try to get Deshaun Watson. Like imagine Deshaun Watson with Juju. Holy cow.
Carson Wentz.
That would be
a mobile quarterback on the Steelers could be very deadly. Could be very.
Because they don't have a running game anyway. You might as well.
Running quarterback in there exactly.
Because Deshaun has a cannon. You have Claypool as your deep target. You have Juju as a good route runner.
Ridiculous arm. Deshaun Watson might have one of the best arms in the NFL. I feel like because he does have a cannon. You're completely right.
But
that would be something to see.
A little bit on the Pittsburgh game. Unfortunately, I believed in Pittsburgh strongly, and I made a small wager with my buddy Steezy A. Smith. Not on the spread, but on the game, straight up. So I do owe him some carne asada because I didn't think that without a head coach and without half their roster and coaching staff, they'd be able to beat Pittsburgh in Pittsburgh. Go to Big Brother, but they handed it to you, and Pittsburgh lost. Big time. So that'll be some carne asada I need to pay up. But on the other side of the spectrum, Aaron and I had a little wager heading into the weekend slate as well. But our wager wasn't about the Seahawks, and it wasn't about any other team that we really truly care about. It was about the Chicago Bears. And
you know how close I was? I was?
Hold on. So the Chicago, let me tell the story because they need to know, the people at home need to know exactly how this went down. So the Bears are getting blown out. Essentially, our bet was as follows. The spread was 9.5 for the game. Aaron said they're going to win by more than 18 points in a blowout fashion during last week's show. And I said, whoa, Aaron, I don't know about this. And so we disagreed about that. And I held him to it. I said, if you're going to give me double the spread, I will happily take that action, and we bet a case of Mountain Dew. Then as we started talking, he showed up to my live stream, and we started, agonizing each other and egging each other on. We raised the stakes a little bit, and it went from a quick little 6-pack to a 12-pack to a 24-pack to a 36-pack eventually by game time. So now it's a 36-pack of Mountain Dew. And we'll talk about the specific details about that as well. But as the game goes on, it is starting to look worse and worse on my side of this bet. Chicago falls down 18 points. And right before they do, it was 21-3. And right before they do, Aaron calls me. He was like, just for reference, if it's exactly 18 points, do I win the bet? And I was like, no, Aaron, because I specifically last week on the show intentionally said more than 18 points, aka 19 or more points to be the difference.
It's a setup.
It should have been a 7.5 point spread.
But then, no, 9.5. 9.5 times 2. That's 19 points. But as the game goes on, they go up by 21, or they go up by 18 points. Then they have a chance. Drew Brees, they get 4 chances at the goal line to go in and score a touchdown to essentially ice the ball game and to not allow me to win this bet at all. They get stuffed 3 times. 4th down, they go for it rather than taking the points that would have put them above the spread. But instead, they go for it. Drew Brees, quarterback sneak, dives over the goal line. Ruled on the field as a touchdown. Aaron proceeds to redial my phone number, gloating about his victory. The first question this individual asked me, this man's here, says, Squabo, do you feel stupid about your pick yet?
Oh no.
Before they had officially ruled whether it was going to remain as a touchdown or not. And then I'm looking at this replay and I said, I don't know, man. I think it's a touchdown, but I haven't seen the right angle yet. And we keep looking at the angles. And I say, Aaron, hold up. And Aaron's at work this whole time. I say, Aaron, hold up, bro. I don't know if he got in. And I'm looking at this replay, and they said he didn't. But there's still 2 minutes left in the game. So he gets, it's exactly the number that I need it to be in order to win. It's 1 point towards me. But the problem is now this offense that's put up 3 points all game and has 100% struggled is on our 2-inch line and has a chance. If we get a safety and we have to punt, that's game. If we get a safety and we have to punt, Aaron wins the bet. We advance down the field. We end up scoring a touchdown. And Aaron, the last question I asked you before hanging up the phone, Aaron, do you feel stupid about your pick yet?
Talk about doing the do, man. That's just tough. Now I feel sorry for you, Aaron. let me return the favor.
I was just so incredibly disappointed. That the Saints didn't just kick a field goal. I don't know why they wanted to go for it. I get that at that point there's nothing really to lose, but bro, take the 3 points. That's all they had to do was take the 3 points. That's all they had to do.
Aaron, share with us your side of things when this whole thing was going down. How are you feeling?
Well, I was at work. There weren't customers. So I work at a car dealership. I went to the empty car shop and I was just screaming bloody murder for about 2 minutes. That's all it was.
That'll happen.
Words I'm not allowed to repeat on the air, and it just
will happen. Well, congrats to Squabo for his quesadilla. You might have to share. Do you mind if we talk about some hoops action? I heard WSU had a little had some good things happen to them this past weekend.
All right, yeah, let's skip a couple of other topics. There are a couple things I want to touch on before we get there because we do still have another 16 minutes. So, let's skip over the mock draft and let's skip over the trade Russell Wilson. Let's start by talking about just real quick predictions for this weekend's games. Rams at Green Bay minus 6.5. We're doing elevator mode, lightning speed. I got the Rams against the spread here. I got Green Bay winning the game 27-21. Asher.
27-17, Green Bay. Give it to me.
Okay, so we're on the same side. Aaron.
Yep.
30-17 Green Bay.
And do you guys have your records from last week? I think I went 3-3, which was really bad.
I do not have my record. I did not write that down, but it was probably losing because I know I had Pittsburgh winning, and that one clearly didn't go.
I did have the Browns win the game against Pittsburgh, so I'm just saying.
1-2.
You also had the Saints winning by more than 18 points, so.
You don't gotta keep bringing it up. I'm just saying. That's all I'm asking.
All right. So we all agree Green Bay advances, even though the Rams play to the Green Bay's weaknesses with the run game. Buffalo -2. Hosting Baltimore. I got Buffalo. I'm swallowing the points 30-27. I think this is a great game, but I got Buffalo pulling away Asher.
That camera must still be in there. I got 30-24 Buffalo. I think it'll be close because I like what I saw from them against Tennessee, but I think Buffalo. I think Stephon Diggs goes off. I think Stephon Diggs gets at least 110 yards.
What's really sus is that I'm not in the same room from the last time that you copied all my scores, so you must have multiple cameras throughout this house.
I had your dog be secret agent here for me and help move it.
Chachi.
I knew Tati meant acting sus. Aaron, Buffalo -2 versus Baltimore.
I'm also swallowing the points. I got 24-21 Buffalo victory.
Cleveland.
Because it might snow in Buffalo, and Lamar's never played in the snow before. So.
That would be so fun. I would love to watch that game. 2 really good rushing offenses in a snow game. That would be great. Cleveland at Kansas City -10. I think this spread is atrocious. Colin Cowherd came out and said, and I completely agree with it. I think the spread is way too much. I think Cleveland is the play here. I'd play Cleveland at around 7 or 6 points in this matchup. I think Cleveland has the chance in this ballgame. And the fact that Cleveland, we've talked about this for a while. If Cleveland were able to beat Pittsburgh and they advance in the second round, this is a legitimate team that can knock out Kansas City, because if they're able to rush the football, if they're able to control it, and we've seen them explode offensively twice now with 28 points in a quarter, or 28 points and 35 points and a half against Tennessee and against Pittsburgh, 2 playoff teams that they were able to do this to. What if they just explode on Kansas City early? Kansas City's had 2 weeks off. They have a bye week, and they rested their starters the last week of the season against the Chargers. So they've had 2 weeks off, and they weren't playing great football before that. When's the last time that they covered the spread? When's the last time that they beat a team by 10 points? You have to look all the way back to the Jets game. I think Cleveland is a play here, and I could see Cleveland winning this game. They were doubted last week. They're going to be doubted this week. I think Cleveland has a chance. Kansas City wins the game 38-37, closer than people think. It's a shootout, but Cleveland is a play here. Cleveland against the points. Asher.
I have Cleveland running their luck out because I think they beat Pittsburgh, and I think that's all they get. I think Patrick Mahomes is just too much, and that's not me being serious. I just don't think Baker Mayfield matches up. He had that really great game against Patty when Oklahoma played Texas Tech, and they both had about 30,000 yards combined total. What an awesome game that was. Kiki Cootie had like 100 yards too. That was an awesome game to watch too. But I have KC winning I have KC at 10 exactly, 32-23.
Well, and what's really interesting about this as well, Cleveland has this inept ability to jump out on teams and to go up 28, like we were saying. This is the one team that you can go up 28 and still lose. Kansas City. So watch for that to happen. Watch for Cleveland to jump out big, Kansas City to come back, 1-point victory, Kansas City. Aaron, what are your thoughts?
It's going to be a tie ball game with a minute left in the fourth quarter, 28-28. The Browns are going to have the ball, and they're going to score. It's going to be final score 34-28 Browns.
They don't kick the PAT?
Well, I think what's going to happen is it's going to be like a breakaway thing, where it's like somebody breaks free and just goes all the way. That's what I think is going to happen.
That'll be the end of the clock. No PAT.
Heard it here first.
No, not even necessarily the end of the clock. I think if they score before the clock's out, then they just Kansas City goes for the long balls every single time and just is not able to do it.
No, I'm just saying like 34-28. That's only 6 points.
Oh, I guess you're right. So then, yes, that would be the end of the clock.
Okay.
Buzzer beater.
Yeah, I know. I had this whole head out of my head.
I like it.
Yeah.
I like it. All right. New Orleans -3 hosting Tampa. And I think this spread is a little bit ridiculous too. Tampa Bay got the last time they played in New Orleans, it was a closer game, but it ended up being a little bit of a blowout. And then the other game was a shellacking down in Tampa Bay. And New Orleans is only a 3-point favorite. I think New Orleans is the play here. I'm swallowing the points. New Orleans 30-22. It's closer, but New Orleans gets it done. And everything that Tampa Bay has been trying to do does not get them over their big brother down in Louisiana. Asher.
I have it right at the spread. I have New Orleans winning 24-21 because I do look at the first 2 games and just see New Orleans totally taking Tampa Bay to town both games. But playoff Tom Brady, I just cannot put any distrust in playoff Tom Brady. I've seen what he can do. I think he'll make it a lot closer than people think. I think Tampa Bay got clicking the last couple weeks. They were able to knock off Washington. Taylor Heineke, what an effort from him.
Yes.
Quick shout out to Washington. That was awesome to watch. That he's going to be an awesome guy. Looking forward to see him playing soon. But I have New Orleans winning by 3. I think Kamara gets a rushing touchdown. Taysom Hill will find his way into the end zone somehow, and I think New Orleans defense will be able to seal it up at the end somehow.
Aaron.
Yeah, no, I mean, Drew Brees has not lost to Tom Brady in the playoffs, and so that's why I'm going to swallow the points. It's 30-24. The Saints are going to win. It's not going to be. It's going to be like an early lead, and then Tampa's going to try to creep back up. But
Aaron, I know you did not just say Drew Brees has not lost to Tom Brady in the playoffs.
He's not wrong.
But they haven't played.
I'm just saying. I get that playoff Tom's a thing. I think he's down. Tampa Bay is going to turn back into Tampa Bay here at the end of this year. So.
All right, gentlemen, we have recognition to deliver. And Asher, I want to go to you, our residential Wazoo basketball expert. Share with us the latest accomplishment by the basketball teams.
So let me give a quick shout out to Coach Kimi Etheridge and the women's team.
Yep.
Wow, what an awesome
Yes.
thing to do. They've officially become the very last out of all the Power 5 teams in the country. They were the last one to get ranked in AP. Celebrate, Pullman. Celebrate. They're number 25.
I got chills.
It's at the absolute bottom of the list. But hey, 25th best team in the country. That's definitely something to celebrate, especially after, I don't think a lot of people talk about this a lot, after losing 2 of your best players the year prior in Bobby Buckets and Chanel Molina. And it's just so interesting what a turnaround they've done, because they managed to go 11-20 last year with Horstova and Chanel, and now they're sitting 25th in the country. They're projected to play Florida State in the opening round of the March Madness tournament. No one's ever said that probably before this year. They're projected to be a 9 seed. They're projected to play Florida State. They're projected to have Charlize Ledger-Walker have the Freshman Player of the Week named after her. She's won it 4 times now. She's won it 3 times in a row, I think. She leads the Pac-12 in scoring, and she's a freshman. That's unheard of.
Crazy. That's not
absolutely
normal.
unheard of. Men's or women's sports.
Sends
Absolutely
it to
unheard of.
OT, wins the game.
That's number 1 overall material, by the way.
Forced overtime against Arizona, proceeds to put a dagger in Arizona at the buzzer to beat Adia Barnes and their squad.
So great, dude. It's so great.
Absolutely unbelievable. And the men's team, they haven't played a couple of great games. They lost to Arizona. That was they suffered their first loss, and that was.
You can't beat a Pac-12 team, dude. It's so frustrating.
I mean, they did beat Oregon State, but Oregon State
I know.
They lost a lot of pieces for sure, but it's tough. It is tough. They got worked by Stanford. Oscar Da Silva is a player. Let me tell you, Da Silva.
God, that dude's a.
Props to him though. He had a great
27
game.
points, 13 rebounds, 10 for 18
boards.
from the field.
Good Lord. It's ridiculous.
And then Zaire.
But to be fair though, Bonton's efficiency has gone up a little.
It really has.
Just
really
a little.
has.
And he's definitely stepped up and answered a lot of critics.
Hey,
Yeah.
can you talk to me about 51%, 24 of 47 in his last 3 games? Isaac Bonton, the perennial 24.5, 29% field goal shooter, somewhere in that range.
He's definitely, like, what I've noticed about Bonton is that he's passed the ball a lot more, which means he stops taking dumb shots. And oh my God, it almost like it connects somehow.
He's not forcing as much, and that's definitely making a lot of more other things click for the offense. But it's just the lack of talent, I think, because I think they're not as talented as like a Stanford or an Arizona or an Arizona State, and I think that definitely has some to do with it, because they give up 13 boards and almost a 30-piece to Da Silva, and he's definitely talented. And Stanford's going to be a good team this year, I think, too, and they have the record to show up. But I think they're moving in the right direction. They're still at a good standing in the Pac-12. They have a good record. I know they played a bunch of quote-unquote cupcake non-conference teams, but they definitely have a lot to be proud of, especially with Bonton, because we've just been, especially Aaron, if anyone at home hasn't heard a previous show, oh my gosh, Aaron has just sounded off multiple times on Bonton's inefficiency, and he's definitely stepped up. So I think they've solved the first. I think they've gotten to the first step of what needs to change.
I think better have heard me, dude.
Isaac, listen to you.
be better at just ish together. Ridiculous.
Aaron, let's get your thoughts, man, on the state of men and women's basketball.
I'm so stoked to see a great women's team come back. Granted, I had a blast announcing the women's games last year, but our record didn't reflect a great team. But now that we're the top, we're number 25, it's the very bottom, but we're in there. And the fact that we are a potential March Madness candidate right now, like a number 9 seed, so freaking sweet, dude. Are you
They've
kidding?
never
That's
been
gonna be
ranked
awesome.
before ever in program history.
Never
Not even
been
with
ranked.
Bobby Buckets. Not even.
That just shows
Ever.
our freshman of the year, dude.
And the coaching too, like the turnaround that Coach
Yes.
Etheridge has had from last year to this year
She's
to get
doing
ranked
great.
for the first time ever.
It makes me
Pac-12
so
coach.
happy.
She should be Pac-12 Coach of the Year.
I would agree. I would definitely agree.
Agreed. Look, and
then,
sorry, go ahead. Please
no, I
continue.
was just
Aaron.
so on the men's side, it's just ridiculously frustrating. I heard you about to say Yakimovsky. I'm very impressed with how he's been doing. 5 for 9 from the 3-point range. Are you
He's
kidding
been
me?
balling.
He's been balling.
Too.
And same with Effie. He was 3 for 6 from the 3 against Stanford, and just
So I put a sports reel together because I needed to do that for my last semester, and a majority of my basketball calls are just reacting to Apagidi. Oh my goodness, he's got to be one of their top 2 players behind Bonton. Every time I watch him play basketball, it's just mind-boggling sometimes.
God, dude,
What he can do.
not
His
human.
athleticism, the springs he has at 6'10" to just block shots whenever he wants,
Yeah.
to just jump up and just put someone on a poster every time, and he can shoot the 3 too.
Kristaps vibes.
Kristaps vibes.
He just needs to grow like 4 more inches to get to Kristaps' height, but he definitely gives off those vibes. He can stretch the floor. He can take it up like Kristaps. I've seen him do that in a couple of games.
Kind of like Kevin
that I've
Love
called.
too, a little bit. He shoots the 3 like Kevin Love does, or did.
He has a
can see it.
fairly complete game. It's just I think the biggest
He really
knock on
does.
him is probably getting into foul trouble because a lot of teams will try
Yeah,
to get
but
aggressive
to be
and take
fair,
it to
some
him.
of his fouls,
It's
they're not
definitely
fouls.
It's definitely
Thank
taking
you,
tacky for
thank you.
sure. I'm not contemplating that, but I think the fact that when he does get into foul trouble, teams go like, okay, we're going to just continue to take it at
Exactly,
him and get him
yeah.
into more foul trouble. But
Yeah.
he's one of the most complete freshmen I've seen in a long time.
I would agree. I would definitely agree.
Yeah, no. How about the sisters? In the previous game, Crystal 14 points, Charlize 17, 5 for 13, 6 for 17 from the field, 9 assists for Crystal, 5 for Charlize. To have 2 sisters balling out that they balling out, putting us in the top 25, putting us in
Incredible.
March Madness. What a
Mad
beautiful
respect.
feeling.
Mad respect to them.
Bringing this franchise to light. And yes, the men's basketball team has not been as impressive as of late, but this is what we expected heading into conference play, and it's been a difficult thing, but we've starting to see more efficiency. We still got a lot of things that we need to fix, though, moving forward in the
Absolutely.
Pac-12.
One last thing, though, before we go out. If and
Go
when
ahead.
we get out of this pin, I hope it's soon. I want to see Beasley filled to the max.
So do
Because
I.
It took the Clay game to fill the stands because the student section's hardly filled to half capacity. When we get out of this, Beasley better be packed because they're playing like they deserve. They need to have a packed Beasley. They deserve it.
100%. I was at Beasley today. They're doing COVID tests there for any local Wazoo students.
Get tested.
Get tested.
God bless you guys. All right, guys, we're just about out of time, but I really enjoyed today's show, and I want to give you guys an opportunity to shout out where people can find you on other platforms. You can find me on Instagram and on YouTube at DJSQUABO. Aaron, let's go to you. Where can people find you for stalking purposes?
Instagram is at Aaron Monson. Twitter is at Aaron__Monson. That's a better one to follow, I feel like, for sports stuff. And my TikTok's just Aaron Monson as well. Yeah, that's basically it.
And Asher.
Asherline on most things, Volcanic Ashman on Twitch. I just got a webcam and a second monitor. I'm going to be doing some streaming. I might do one tonight. We'll see how it goes. Be sure to get me going.
What are you
I'm
playing?
excited to get streaming. I'm thinking about streaming some classic Pokemon games. I got a Game Boy Advance emulator. Gonna do a little walkthrough. I'm super stoked. I got a lot of things in my head I need to put on paper and execute, but I'm excited.
You play any Valorant?
I do. My brother actually just told me to download it. I could jam some Valorant for sure.
Hop on with me. Aaron's going to download it too, and we're all going to play and be happy together. All right, guys.
Bet I'm there.
It's been a pleasure. As always, it is your home for Seahawks and Cougar coverage on YouTube and on KUGR.